With inflation now at 7.5%, the Defense Department is being squeezed. So, for fiscal year 23, my guest recommends a top-line defense budget of $816 billion. Retired Army Major General John Ferrari is a former budget official and currently a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. General, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, as I just mentioned, your number for the fiscal 23 defense budget is $816 billion. How did you come to that number?
Well, if you look at what the Biden administration was planning to submit for defense, and defense is both the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Nuclear Forces, and some other agencies, for FY22, it was about $756 billion. Well, we know Congress is about to appropriate about $777 billion for 22. So for 23, if you take into account the pay raise that needs to be put in place, and the amount of money that Congress has already added, about $20 billion to the defense top line for 22, and then the 7.5 inflation rate to the operating accounts, which fund Readiness, you get to about $816 billion for the defense enterprise.
All right, well, let's talk about each of those things, about where that extra funding should go. You said that you recommend a pay raise for service members. How much is that going to cost?
Yeah, so the recommendation is 7% pay raise. The initial reporting from OMB is that the pay raise will instead be about 4.6%. Inflation is running 7.5%, so the 4.6% won't even cover the amount of inflation. Soldiers haven't felt this impact much yet. It's been muted because of the child tax credits, and so it's going to be a particular pain this year, and that'll cost about $12 billion above what was projected.
You say that $20 billion should be added to the Pentagon's procurement and research accounts. Explain that.
Yeah, so last year, the Biden administration submitted a muted defense top line and a lot of additional money for the non-defense accounts. Congress has gone back and negotiated a top line of added procurement of about $20 billion. Because what happens in the Pentagon is, in order to hit the reduced top line, they cut procurement because they know that's what Congress is going to add. So in order to get the budget through Congress quickly, right, the recommendation is let's not play budget games. Let's just appropriate, or OMB should fund what's needed, and then we can get it through Congress much faster.
So you say that another $20 billion should go towards readiness of the force. What's the problem currently with readiness?
Yeah, the current problem with Readiness is fuel prices are up 50%. And so if you're the Air Force or the Navy, that's going to impact flying hours, steaming days. If you're the Army, all the other costs for spare parts, right? You either have to reduce training at that point. And so 7.5% of the operations budget is about $20 billion. So that just keeps Readiness the same. And you can see with operations in the Ukraine, operations in the Middle East and Syria, operations in Taiwan, right? The world is busier than ever, and our adversaries are challenging us. And the last thing we need is untrained and unready forces.
So after that, about $8 billion will be left over for advanced weapon systems such as hypersonics, space capabilities, etc. Is that enough to counter China's technological advancements?
It's probably not enough to counter the advancements, but it is enough to avoid what General Milley has called a bloodletting within the Pentagon. So, there is a thought that, hey, we can get out of the Middle East. We don't have to be in Europe. We can cut those forces. So that $8 billion is meant to kind of blunt the edge of the bloodletting. There'll be additional funding needed for procurement and other items to advance China. But we really have to have a force that's capable of operating really in the Middle East, in Europe, and in the Asia-Pacific region. And that's what that will cost.
So in your opinion, what does OMB need to be doing right now?
So I think what OMB needs to be doing right now, in addition to giving the top line to the Defense Department and the other agencies, is working with Congress, in particular the appropriations committees. The appropriation committees are right now working to finalize the top line for 22 and all the policy details. Right, the administration and the Congress can negotiate the top line simultaneously for 23. The budget is going to be submitted late. Congress has an election year coming up. If they can agree on the top line numbers now for 23, there's a small chance that Congress could enact that budget for 23 before 1 October. Absent that, right, we're going to be under a continuing resolution. So we talk about these extra funds for pay raises, for inflation, for procurement, but it likely won't show up until, the middle of next year. Look, we're already in February now. We don't have a budget for 2022. With the midterms, that's likely to happen again. So I think the best gift we can give to Russia and China is a Defense Department that's been funded adequately on time. And this is a way to do it. Negotiate the 23 top line right now and get it appropriated on time.
Well, how likely is that, getting the fiscal 23 budget approved? Has it ever happened before?
Well, I mean, it has happened in the past many years ago, so it hasn't happened in the recent past. And like I said, it's February going into, it'll be March at least before 22. So it would be good if the political establishment could get together before the midterm elections and adequately fund on time our government operations before the elections.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. General, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.